However, if that's your everyday debit card, absolutely fine.
Right.
Because you need that But if it's your,
there's another debit card.
If you were getting, if you were having a separate savings account for health and that, you would keep that debit card away. That's not your everyday. You're not going to carry that with you.
Not with you.
Yeah. So I need to take a page from this book because I have I don't have the same thing that Elizabeth does, but I have my debit card with me all the time. But it's connected to one of my larger savings accounts that it is really easy, and I have the app on my phone, and if I need to, I can just and it's in my debit card immediately.
Yeah.
So I need to maybe make my heftier savings accounts a little bit less accessible.
Yeah, and that's not saying that they're not accessible because let's say the tires blow out in your car and you need that. That's where you're going to get the money from. Everybody has a phone. You can still use the website on your phone,
right?
But
to get to it.
You're just not putting the app on there. You're just making it slightly more inconvenient. Because if it's slightly more inconvenient, you have those extra 30 seconds to think about: is this really an emergency, or are these just is this just a pair of jeans that I want?
Yeah.
Or is it the last pair of shoes in my size and they're on sale and I have been looking at those shoes for 3 weeks and now they're on sale. They only have one pair in my size. Should I borrow the money from myself to buy them? That question does come up.
It does.
And
Not for you.
And if it's an app and all it means is and I can buy them, then you're going to do it.
That's true.
But if it's like, I got to pull out my phone, I got to remember my password. That's the best part. Is I have to pull out my phone, I have to go to the website, I have to remember my login, I have to remember my password.
That's right.
You're probably going to be like, I really shouldn't be buying these shoes.
It gives you the chance to process it.
And you're going to be like, you know what, I shouldn't be buying these shoes out of my savings. If I really want to buy these shoes, I need to be doing it on my regular debit card. It comes out of my bank right now, and that means I skip dinner out this week.
Right.
And that,
I feel like I have a lot of work to do.
That's okay.
Because I totally just did the shoe thing just the other day.
just transferred that money right over.
No, I just literally back of my phone debit card just bought the shoes, and shamelessly.
But then you skip something else.
I did.
Like she said.
and that's what a personal finance is. It's basically knowing what your limitations are. So if you bring in $1,000 in a month, that's your limitation.
Right.
And so should you want to buy the shoes and say they're $100 and you buy them, what are you giving up? And you're constantly weighing: are the shoes more important than
eating?
And if you choose that, fine.
Right.
That is not and that's the thing. I don't care.
No judgment zone.
I don't care where you spend your money as long as you're making those decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as you're saying, I thought about it and I realized I can go without groceries this week and eat the ramen and the canned tuna that's left in my house because I want these shoes so bad. However, how people get in trouble is they go, I want the shoes and I want the sushi.
Right.
I can't really afford both. I'll just do both and I'll figure
it out later. Yeah.
And then when you come up short at the end of the month, it's like,
you're panicked.
What did I do?
And then you put something then you reach for the
Mm-hmm.
credit card and you put something on the credit card that you shouldn't, and then there's no room to pay yourself back because you've maxed out and you've gone above.
And that's
so you're eating into your next month's budget.
And never, ever delude yourself and say, I'm going to borrow from my savings. There is no such thing as borrowing from your savings because you will not pay it back. It's that self-control is so hard to do. And that's why savings are for things that are, extremely urgent or important or that you are specifically saving for. Because if you borrow $100 for your savings for something that is not in a high priority, it just, you buy it, you're done. And eventually you're like, I'll put it back in the savings. I will.
And you never do.
My dad said that his father, who's very successful financially, the typical story, he got kicked out at 18 during the Great Depression, had $1 and made millions. He always said, it's easy to borrow money, it's hard to pay back, even if it's yourself.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, so stay away from your savings when it comes to impulse buying.
It's easy to get more credit cards, and more credit cards. And
the big takeaway for me is to be intentional about what you're saving for.
Yes.
Because I think that's my problem.
Yeah.
And because I have the ability to, I do currently and in the past especially, but sometimes still I borrow for myself. And but the mindset for me is, well, what am I saving for?
Well, and that's why I really
That's
love
why you
like the
I
sub
love those. I
accounts.
love those sub accounts because it's a lot easier when you can really see the money tangibly connected to an event that you really want to do. I really, really want to go to Hawaii. And I've been dreaming about Hawaii, and I can see the money building for Hawaii. And I always tell my clients, really get into it. That's half the fun of planning, something you want to do, is like thinking about where you're going to stay and, kind of envisioning like the adventures you'll have. And then pulling $100 out of that Hawaii account is going to be a lot harder. Like if you have a savings account that's called Hawaii versus a savings account that's called savings. Let me tell you, pulling $100 out of Hawaii is a heck of a lot harder than pulling $100 out of savings.
That's very true.
So name your savings. Really designate what your savings are for, because it keeps you on track. It's a visual reminder. Oh yeah, that's right. I am saving for this thing. If I pull that money out, I'm one step farther away from getting what I really want.
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I'm doing that like today.
I see Elizabeth's mind over there churning like, oh my God, I need to separate accounts.
Definitely my mind's running. I'm like sitting there thinking like it is true. Like in the moment, do I really want to buy this Starbucks, or later on I can have a margarita in Hawaii?
Exactly.
Like when you're there, you always go on vacations and look back like, why didn't I save more? But I'm already here and it's too late, and I don't have as much money as I want to have to do whatever I want to do while I'm here.
And it also it gives you that discipline, because if you have these sub savings accounts, you know that when you go on vacation, you're not taking your emergency money with you, right? And so you're not there having your margarita by the beach
with your health account money.
With your health account money, or
and it makes the vacation
or your tire money, right? Because you go and get your car serviced, and they go, you've got 200 more miles left on those tires, and there you are in Hawaii spending your tire money. Right?
And then you have to come back.
Well, and then you come home and you have to come back and deal with
it.
Tires, and you have no money, and
then you need another vacation.
Well, then you feel bad about Hawaii, and Hawaii, it takes away from the experience you had. If you can separate these accounts and know that every dollar you spend in Hawaii was specifically allocated, you worked so hard for it, you're going to enjoy Hawaii like you've never.
So much. That's
knowing
right.
that you can go home and you still have your other accounts to take care of life.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you really get to have a vacation.
Yeah.
And there's no guilt. There's no guilt when you get home. There's no overspending when you get home. It really just brings the joy into that event that you've worked so hard for.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this, because it not only, because we were going to talk about emergency funds and all that, and that's boring and you hate to do it. So when you have these sub accounts, and you know how much money you're supposed to put in each one because you know what they're for. It makes it a lot easier, like you said, to just go ahead and do it and get more excited about it. Because I think saving money, there has to be some emotion attached to it. And emotion has to be happy, right? or you won't do it, right? A positive one.
And I know I always say that my clients, after they realize that they can save, they start getting addicted to savings.
Yes.
And the reason why is because all of a sudden these things that you are saving for, that before you were kept borrowing money from your savings and never actually getting, now they're getting them.
That's right.
They're going, oh my gosh, I get rewarded for my hard work and for saving. And now and then it becomes addictive. Like, okay, I'm going to save more, because if I save more, then I can achieve this goal. And if I save more. And so it really does, by designating each savings account, and it starts to feel good that it starts to become, okay, I'd rather save this $100 than, I keep saying buying jeans, but apparently that's on my mind today. But you go, I'd rather save it. It feels so much better to save it. And so it does. It really becomes addicting when you're doing it right.
Yes.
When you're doing it right, it becomes addicting, and you'll find that all you want to do is save and watch that grow, because by watching it grow, you're like, I'm one step closer to Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm getting so much closer to Hawaii.
That makes so much sense.
And the adrenaline.
Yeah.
The adrenaline, you actually get more adrenaline out of watching that savings account getting very much closer to your goal than you do out of the material thing that you would buy, the coffee or the that's a fleeting, you get the adrenaline and it goes away.
That's right.
Really
However, watching your savings account, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm 2 months away from Hawaii. I'm 1 month away from Hawaii. I'm like,
because that cup of coffee, it could be $5, and $5 a day. We did this $5 a day challenge, and you see how much money in a year $5 a day is that you spent on coffee, that you would much rather spend in a tropical island somewhere,
getting a massage on the beach.
Right, getting a massage on the beach on a Mai Tai or whatever, just designated money to spend on yourself that is healthier too. Yeah. Than that $5 cup of coffee every day.
By the way, if you're buying $5 coffee a day, you're spending $1,825.
That's right.
As opposed to just buying it from the store, getting a to-go cup yourself.
Right.
Because I think we all think Starbucks is good, but it really isn't.
No.
Some people like it. I mean, I don't care. That $5 a day equaling $1,800.
Well,
that's $1,800 to spend. That will take you to Hawaii.
If I had a cup of coffee in one hand and I had $1,800 in my other hand, and I said, pick one.
Yes.
I'm going to say 99% of the people are going to take the $1,800.
Yeah.
Yes.
So think about that. Think about the fact that what you're doing, and it might not be coffee, it might be magazines, it might be, whatever your daily vice is. If you're a smoker, it might be a pack of cigarettes. You're basically choosing the small thing above the big picture, $1,800. So by cutting out your one small vice that probably is bad for you, we all have these small things that are bad for us. I collect magazines and I have a giant stack of them, which is, it's not doing me any favors. And so if I cut that out, it's actually doing me a favor. I'm not killing the environment, but I'm also working towards, I have this $1,800 at the end of the year, and I'd much rather the $1,800 to go do something that, leaves lasting memories and happiness than the magazine that I don't really read and put on the floor.
Yeah.
I also think it has a different angle to think about it. Is I saved up to go abroad, and as I saw my savings increase, I wanted to be motivated to do more at work, stay longer, or do whatever I could so I can put more every time I went to the bank into the bank account instead of just what it would have been if I was just saving for nothing for saving as opposed to Germany. It made me want to save more and work harder, stay longer, pick up more tables because I was serving at the time. So
exactly, because it's that.
I'm
ready. I'm so close to my goal.
It's not building fast enough. I was like, how can I get it bigger, quicker?
And that brings it to the emergency fund too. You want to have that same sort of feeling about an emergency fund. And what I really want people to do is think about an emergency fund and think about what it really means. Because when I say emergency fund, oh, boring. Oh my God.
Right.
But what an emergency fund really means is that life happens, and let's say something happens and you have a loss of income. The last thing you want to do is you don't want to have to change your life immediately. You don't want to have to all of a sudden tomorrow, now I have to move back in with my mom. I have to get, sell my car. I have to, take all my clothes to Buffalo Exchange. What you want to do, an emergency fund is so that way you're buying time. You're respecting yourself so that, let's say you have a loss of income, you're giving yourself time to make decisions on whether your life is going to change. How do you want to change it?
Right.
Are you going to find a new job? Are you going to move cities? Are you going to start a new business? What are you going to do? So an emergency fund, I really want people to think of an emergency fund like they do their trip to Hawaii.
Right.
It is something that really is actually something to work for too.
Right.
Because maybe you want the loss of income. Maybe you want to, just say peace out to your boss and, and walk out the door.
We want that, I can say goodbye to you money in the bank.
Exactly.
I had to find a nice way of saying it. I watched a video and the guy was saying, you need to have that screw you money. I don't need this job. Yeah. I can go do something else.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because that way you're not feeling trapped.
And so let's say, maybe you're the person who hates your job. And you're like, that's what you can go towards for the emergency fund. You can you can fantasize and you can imagine the moment where you've hit the amount of money in your bank it will take to so just drop the mic and walk out.
That's right.
The end. Find somebody else, because I know that every single one of us
has
some
had
point in
that
our
moment.
Life has just wished, God, I wish I could just turn around and walk away.
Oh,
and
I've thought up plots of how what I'm gonna say and how I'm gonna do.
How to make it so epic.
So use that. Use that.
Yeah.
And you can, not to say no, but I call it with my clients
yes, money. Yes.
And
those are the words we heard on the tape, right?
Pretty much.
And I tell them, think think about that. Think about how good it would feel.
Yes.
And anytime you know, like, use that. Like, if you're having a bad day at work and you're like, oh my God, I hate my boss, be like, okay, I can do this, because if I just put up with this a little while longer, I can stick an extra $100 in that emergency fund. And knowing that, you know, when you get to a certain point, you have so much freedom.
Because that can be your why. You know, people talk about, you know, having their why, right?
Yeah.
That can be your why.